Okay, so what's going to happen now is we got two speakers, special speakers for tonight. And the first is Dr. Weiping Yu, and he is going to be introduced in a minute by his collaborator, David Gornosky, who has a radio show. Are you all familiar with the radio show, A Neighbor's Choice? Raise your hand if you're familiar. All right, lots of people are. Good. All right, they talk about politics and culture and science, and their science expert is none other than Dr. Yu. So what we're going to do now is show you a video, and after the video, David is going to come up and introduce Dr. Yu. And then when Dr. Yu is done, there will be no Q&A immediately following his talk. I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to introduce Terrence Howard. And then after Terrence Howard is done, we will have a Q&A for both. So save your questions. I hope that we just in the interest of getting the timing and everything, that's why we're doing it this way. So everybody clear on how that's going to happen? John, are we ready to roll the movie? Let's go ahead and do that.
And here's what really worries me about Dr. Yu. He claims that he wanted to influence high school and college kids, and he surely has influenced them, but unfortunately his influence is to provide a miseducation with misinformation that will take decades perhaps to undo.
Joining us now, our Chief Science Advisor and Physicist, Dr. Yu.
What we physics propose to the world is every single atom is a perpetual motion machine. That is the fundamental problem with modern physics.
Gravity is not a fundamental force. That's number one. Gravity is an emergent property of a particle system of magnetic force.
Yeah. It has to be gravity that's making the galaxy spin, then there must be a form.
There must be more mass.
But they haven't ever detected it? They're just assuming, oh, but it's actually magnetism, you're saying. Or
One particle, one force, one field, one principle, and in one universe.
Terrence wants to fix this.
He's a professional.
Yes.
You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal.
From the heart of Albuquerque, New Mexico, welcome to the TeslaTech 2025
really
keynote event. I do moonlight in the professional wrestling business as well, so you're going to have to excuse a little bit of the energy here because this is an important event. And I have to first say, let's give an applause to all the speakers we've heard thus far. Haven't they been fantastic? And you know, it wouldn't be proper if I didn't mention something about Nikola Tesla himself, right? This is the man that we have put this event together in honor of. And I have to say, while we've explored so many different things, whether it's healing, engineering, all kinds of things inspired by this man Tesla, let's take a moment to think about the cultural context that was required to allow someone like Nikola Tesla. As we often know, he's had his censorship, he's had his suppression, but he also had his triumphs. He lived in a land where freedom of inquiry and the right to question things and the right to challenge the establishment was built into the fabric of the country we have. But we now live in a day where my co-host, I'm the host of A Neighbor's Choice, as he mentioned earlier, my co-host, Dr. Yu, we've been doing for almost a decade now research, Science and You, our show that we've done across the world. We've been doing research, investigating these things, and yet something funny happened along the way. It was a little bit of a kind of divine coincidence, but Dr. Yu and our guest speaker after this for the keynote, this is a double feature, like those 70s movies. Remember the double feature movie? We're getting a double keynote tonight. But Terrence Howard and Dr. Yu met in a happenstance on Patrick Bet-David's program, one of the top podcasts in the world. And there, for the first time, in front of tens of millions of people, the scientific establishment had a reckoning. And there was no fact checker, there was no establishment member of the high priestly caste of the scientism there to try to mitigate the damage. You just had a free dialogue of two individuals boldly committed to the truth. And that was the spirit of our country that allowed someone like Nikola Tesla to not be burned at the stake for the things that he said. And so tonight's feature, while Terrence Howard and Dr. Yu may disagree on some things, there's a lot that they agree on. And the one thing we can all agree, let's give a round of applause to the idea that we can reclaim our birthright of having freedom of inquiry and not being tied down to priestly castes of knowledge that want to control what people are allowed to say and what they're allowed to question. And so with that, I want to introduce my dear friend, Dr. Weiping Yu. He is a physicist with the NASA Kennedy Space Center, and he is someone who is dedicated to the idea that the universe is much more simple than we can possibly imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Weiping Yu.
Disclaimer, all the views and opinions expressed here are my own. Does not represent my employer, NASA. Okay. My name is Weiping Yu. I'm currently working for NASA at the Kennedy Space Center. Because limited time, I wanted to, let's just getting started. So today's talk is unlocking the mystery of the universe. Do we have a mystery here? You will be judged. Okay. I would like to highlight 3 key points. The first one is a monocharged particle. Would you say electron is a negative charged particle? I said single charged particle called a monocharged particle. And the proton is a positive charged particle. And positron and the quarks is a fractional, still charged particle. If you look at the very back, the stamp is these particles, so quantum particles, does not exist. I will explain why is that. The second one, photon, that's the particle of light, does not exist either. The number 3, so if you say all the quantum particles does not exist, photon does not exist. So what is made up the real world? I call it a Uon. That's if you look at that's called a universal fundamental particle. So universal particle. So that's a Uon represented particle. So universal fundamental particle, simply saying just a little bipolar magnet. Okay, now let's say, what is a fundamental error in physics? We all know something's wrong with physics, but we don't know where it starts. I hope today I can convince you. Started in 1784. Okay, so it's 241 years ago. So there's a great physicist called Coulomb, developed the Coulomb's law. Very simple, like charge repel, opposite charge attract. No problem, is that right? The only one little pre-assumption in it. It's assuming the negative charge particle and the positive charge particle carried by separate
particles. Say negative or positive, so I call the bound charge particle. Now, what I try to prove in the following slides is this is called a negative charge particle, include electron, positron, proton, cannot exist. I hope I gave you enough evidence to convince you that's where physics get it wrong. Okay, so there is a video here. So since then, we arrived at a moment that physics really went off the course. Since the day 1897, the discovery that's called J.J. Thomson discovery of the electron, and win Nobel Prize in the follow, in 1906. That's a great discovery. However, J.J. Thomson named the electron as a single negative charged particle. Is there any problems with that one? I do not hear.
We would predict that the beam would be deflected in the opposite direction, and we observe that the beam is deflected downward.
Cathode ray tube experiment. Did you notice one thing is this cathode ray is, you have two electrodes, create a charge difference, right? And then create a beam of light, right? And he used this magnet to interact with them. You can see magnet directly interact with the beam. So that means that there are some particles, right, in the moving, and with the magnet. If once he turn around, and the beam bending the opposite direction. No problem, right? That event is a magnetic event being interpreted as an electric charge, as a negative charge of particle. To be honest with you, I checked everywhere. No one ever see what an electron looks like. No one ever see what a charge looks like. So, however, everybody know what is magnetism looks like, right? Okay. So basically, that experiment is what called misinterpreting of the magnetic interaction. It was a magnetic interaction with the beam of the light, right? So, and another misinterpretation in that video, in that experiment is, at that time, electrical engineer, I believe there's an electron flow in the circuit, from one side hitting in the side, traveling that side. So what I find is there is no electron in traveling, not even inside of the circuit. I will explain what electricity is, okay? So there's no way electron eject from one electrode, fly to another electrode. So this is a purely magnetic event. So the light generated is because ionized, I believe that's the inert air, inert gas inside of a tube. When you ionize, you know what happens? It's all charged, so-called charged. It's all have a positive, negative, in form a line. So that's why you use magnets can interact with. It's form a beam of magnets. Okay. So far, I have not explained. I just say that's how J.J. Thomson concluded. So we have an electron negative charged particle. So now let me see, can we have that's called a single charged, negative charge or positive charge particle exist in this universe? So I'm gonna, assuming this is a proton, positive charge, okay. This is a negative charge particle. I don't know if the background you can see. So maybe I just use this color so you can see, pretend this is the electron, okay? Assuming there's some particle, negative charge particle, assuming all the discovery correct. So now let's see what happens if we hypothetically split two halves, what do we get? Three options. We can either get two negative charged particles or one negative, one half negative, one half positive, or turn two half of a positive charged particle. Among all three cases, the most logical one is if you split a negative charged particle, you're going to get two half of negative charged, half of negative charge, right? Now, can we put them back? Can we put a two negative half particle back? If we can, so then we violated Coulomb's law, which is just showed earlier. Coulomb law says like charge repel, unlike charge attract. How can you have a two half of negative charge particle come together? This is called what is called logical contradiction, right? So what is the conclusion? That's the when secrets come back. So if two negative cannot coming back as a one, it cannot be exist in the first place. This is gonna apply for electron, positron, proton, and quarks. Basically, it's all quantum mechanical model particles. Basically, is included them. So that means that these construct in quantum mechanics cannot exist. I have more evidence to tell you why quantum mechanics is so weird, and no one can explain where is the problem. So, however, I wanted to mention the first, I believe, is one of the most important mysteries here is the so-called electrical charge is a magnetic polarity, is a magnetic pole. So there isn't called electrical charge, which is negative or positive, carried by two atoms whatsoever in this universe. So that's the fundamental law, fundamental problems. So we misidentified magnetic phenomena as an electrical phenomenon. So that's why we're assuming, so we have what's called electrical charge and magnetic charge or magnetic pole, right? Okay, now I just use logical evidence. So based on the Coulomb's law, say we cannot have a single charged particle exist anywhere in this universe. Now I wanted to display the video. Oh, actually, I believe we can. I can display this video. That's called a physical evidence. Can electron, negative charged particle attract? If it's a negative charge, it must be repelled. Funnily, when I looked around, no one ever see two negative charged electron repel. If you don't believe it, look at here. So right now, we have this plasma ball. I borrowed from an inventor in the other room. So see, lots of light filament. So that means that whenever you generate light, that means you have electrons, right? Electron in motion, right? Create a light. So then we know we have millions or billions of electrons there. Are they really repel each other? Watch. I hope you can see it. Why they come together? Now, let me try another way. So my son, I show him. He said, well, because you use center, everything like to lump center. I said, okay, now I use 5 fingers, spread it. If an electron like to repel, they should spread it all the 5 fingers, right? Did you see? They still, my son used the word called wanting. He said, oh yeah, they wanting to come together. What to tell you is that the so-called electron is not a negative charge, but it's a dipolar magnet. Just like the interaction with magnets in the cathode ray bulb. Okay. Thank you. I want to see what's happening. 2 magnetic particles, opposite, make turns. Okay, watch again. Two like poles supposed to repel, right? What happens to magnets? Make called the magnetic moment. Make things turn around, so that's why it attracts. This is exactly what's happening. Okay, so now I'm gonna demonstrate another video. Okay. Did you see the gentleman use a magnet? To save time, okay. Did you see in every single experiment in the field, we always see particles eventually attract. You never see two particles really fly away from each other due to themselves. You may apply a field, right? Okay, so now, what about, so I talking about the logical contradictions and the physical evidence. Now say, how about the current standard model? They explain this one. Every single particle, subatomic particles in the standard model of particle physics, they all have a magnetic moment. What do you think? So they all behave like magnets, right? We have no problem. We have no problem on that one, right? The interpretation is different. The current theory believe all the magnetic moments is due to the motion of electrons, which I do not believe, I don't even believe exists whatsoever, right? But the current theory, oh yeah, we have a moment because they have an electric charge. That's a fallacy. Okay, I will explain why it is a fallacy. Okay, let's see if we can keep moving forward. So all particles show magnetic moments. We're talking about the electrical charge as an electrical monopole. It cannot exist one way. I believe that's what Bernie mentioned about it. Electric charge under current standard model defined as a scalar. So if you think about it, so if two electric charge and negative charge, they either say we have a force, like either attract or repel. If you bring in another charge, three charge, become a chaotic system. You can never ever balance them. So this is physically, it cannot exist, cannot have a called a chaotic system, which happens the same thing with Newton's law, but gravity, I will talk about that later. So then what happens if you use magnets? Magnets has both north and south pole form what? A vector. The vector, every single true force, it has a vector. Vector has a direction, not just amplitude, have a direction. And that direction has to be relative to space. You fix that direction. You cannot something like an electric charge can rotate or something, changing angle or something. Then that vector will guarantee stable structure. That's how solar system works, or everything in the universe works. I will explain that one later on. Okay. Okay. So I just try to contrast the difference with called the Coulomb's law, existing theory, versus the Uon theory. Uon, that's universal magnetic particle. Okay, it's just magnetic particle. The difference is in the current theory, we're assuming there is an electric charge. In Uon theory, we refute it. Say there is no such thing called electric charge. So-called electric charges are part of a dipolar magnetic pole. Very important distinguishing. So because we mix this up, so that's why I will explain why we burn, we have this called a perpetual motion machine atom and quantum mechanics. I hope we can. Okay, so this page try to say, does anyone in the universe ever see electron? We were taught the electron is in the line, in the what is conducting wires. You cut it, you may see spark, never ever see where is the electron. Nobody ever see. And the cathode ray tube, you see, it is actually form a line of magnetic particles. Form a line. And also in the space detector, never ever detect called a purely charged negative charge particle. Okay. Now the problem is, if you say electron does not exist, how do you square or mesh with called electricity? So let me tell you, electricity is one of my motivation when I was in middle school. I started doubting about the physics. I just could never ever imagine, say, how could a solid particle that's called the electron flow inside of a solid wire at what is 70% of speed of light? How could that happen? So I never truly believe it. But now let me tell you the answer. The Uon answer. There's no particle whatsoever to translate from one place to another place. It's all about oscillation. It's a vibration. Have you heard Nikola Tesla said, what is the true secret of the universe is you have in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? Yeah. So where does vibration? I just want to emphasize, electricity is a vibration, it's a wave motion. The same thing as the light, the same things as the sound, and the heat. So all these phenomena, I only see this mechanical motion, but all those unseen phenomena due to vibration, propagation, and the frequency. Frequency regarding to how you receive it. You have to tune in the same frequency to resulting resonance in order to amplify your amplitude, right? So be able to see the phenomena. Okay, so maybe you just read. I'm just going. Okay, now I want to say what's the consequences. We said that we do not have kind of electric charge. The so-called electron is a misidentity for magnetic pole. Okay, so if we do not have electric charge, and that means we do not have an electron, can we have this kind of orbital, or I call the perpetual motion machine of atomic model? We cannot. If electrons are magnetic particle, and the proton and the neutrons are all magnetic particle, can a magnet orbit another magnet and no external energy input? Okay, so I just made up this one to try to easier to add, assuming initially somehow there's a motion, but since they are all magnets, you look at the electron outside, would it be magnetic bonded with the nucleus? So what is really truly atoms is a group of smaller magnets form the composite particle. That's what is proton, neutron, and atom. So this is why atom is the most stable structure, and we use atom's vibration, natural frequency oscillation, and to measure called atomic clock, right? If you have a perpetual motion type of electron, how can you make the system stable? There's no way can make it stable. It's only we dismiss it. We're assuming atom is a stable structure. And then the most consequential of the mystery of the universe I wanted to explain is quantum mechanics. Remember, if you look at it, so this is a quantum mechanics model. I hope, yeah. If you look at the center, represent the nucleus, that's a proton, neutron, and outside the layer, so that's a space, they said that we have electron clouds, some have an electron or something, right? So quantum mechanics entirely built on this called the perpetual motion machine model. That's something never existed. Somehow I was baffled. Say, how could people being convinced at the time Every single pattern is a perpetual motion in constantly in nearly speed of light, speed rotating. How could the scientific communities accept this one? Right, so, okay, that's another question, and I eventually find the answer. I may not be there. So what does it imply? So once we say the negative charge, the electric charge, just a magnetic pole. So there is no such things called a purely electric charge. And then we do not have this perpetual motion machine model. Without this model, there will be no quantum jump. You know, quantum jump is an electron jump from different level to level. Electron does not exist. There is no parts, no any subatomic parts in atom in any form of motion, unless local vibration. Right? There's none of such motion. So there is nothing called quantum jumps, quantum leap. So the entire quantum concept is built on false foundation. Sorry, my fellow physicists. Okay, I have no reason to get out of it, but I wanted the truth to be out. Okay. Okay. Now. So we're already talking about the first point. The monocharged particle does not exist. So that means an atom cannot have a motion inside of atom, and we cannot have a quantum mechanics at all. There's no electron to jump whatsoever. So entire theory built on false condition. Okay. So now let's go to the second one. The second one about the light. Actually, this is the point made me realize we need a medium to carry light, or simply say ether. Okay, I have no preconception. Say, hey, why we have to have ether? And this is the moment convince me what is light and how light demand a real physical matter. Okay, so we have a three set of series about the light. One is a wave motion. You know what is a wave motion? You consider it is a pond. If you throw a pebble in the center, what happens? Create a local oscillation, right? The local vibration. Nikola Tesla said that everything's vibration. So that's started with vibration. You know the mathematical description of vibration, that's the wave function, okay? So whenever we're talking about the wave, it's all about the vibration, okay? So I hope you get this one. So wave means vibrate. So what is a vibration now? Vibration is a particle oscillating locally around a static point. That's called vibration. And then how light comes. When you local vibration enter the you have to have a medium. The medium has to be elastic medium. When you oscillating here, it propagates through this elastic medium, propagates through. So that's why we can see the light, right? So then, so wave motion require medium. The second one is the particle motion. Particle can travel in vacuum space, right? You can throw a stone, it can traveling. So there's no demand of medium. And the third object called the wave-particle duality. This is very interesting. Somehow we just, at least in the theoretical physics level, we accept. So there are some particle, okay, traveling from the source particle. When you look at it, it becomes particle. When you not look at it, called the observer effect, it travels like a wave. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate why light has to be wave. I'm going to demonstrate, okay? So I hope I have this things ready. I use two ways to demonstrate. One way is use this called the laser pointer. Can you see the laser pointer, everybody? Of course we can see it. Imagine if light is a particle, and the reflection of the laser pointer has to be, occupy every single space in space, different angle, different height, different location, simultaneously to be seen by audience see at the same time. It has to be the reflection of this laser pointer. We can all see that, right? In order you can see, something have to interact with your eyes, right? If you think about particles, so something traveling at the speed of light hit your eyes. And has to be simultaneously occupy every single space in this auditorium. Is that possible? Impossible for me. So I'm gonna do this one because using the reflection probably is too difficult. I have a 9-volt battery and a little 9-volt. Can you see this one? Oh, okay. So there's room, you see that one, right? I often ask, so if I turn this one battery around, the positive and negative around, if you can still see the light, what's your answer? I do not have to waiting for your answer. No matter which way you do, you always have a light because vibration, that's the vibration oscillation. So that's what create light. You know what is the light? Light is oscillation of, we call the electromagnetic wave. In my theory, we just call oscillation of magnetic wave, right? As long as your oscillation, you have this called magnetic particles oscillating in a medium, magnetic medium. Of course, you generate a wave. And this wave can be seen by everybody because the wave propagates through entire space. Yeah, because it's already occupied every single place. So, of course, the vibration will be light. Okay, so now, is that good enough to convince everybody? Somebody already see because I made what is it called, a recital run. Okay, so let's consider I have 3 transparent frequencies, currencies. Try to nail down the light cannot be particle, can only be wave. Okay, so you all can see through them, right? So if I stack them together, you also can see through it because I can see through you. So of course you should be able to see through them. So that means if a light is a particle can go through 3 of them, right? In a row. What happens if I put one wave away, put the 2 together? Of course, light should be see-through, right? If light can go through 3 of them, light should be go through 2 of them until you shoot. What does that mean? We are natural tendency assuming light is a particle. So we use the particle concept, assuming if light can go through 3 of them, of course can go through 2. It's wrong. Okay. So I'm not gonna do too many variations, just do one more variation. So since this light has been blocked in the middle, right? Oh, what I did is I just rotated this. This is a polarizer. So block them. How can we block light? Because the light is a vibration, oscillation, or vibration of electromagnetic field, right? Vibration has a plane. So this polarizer just like have a slit, you know, either X direction, Y direction. If in one, it will go one of the direction. But if you block both directions, you block the light. Now, keep this left hand unchanged. I just slide this one back in. What do you expect? Light being blocked. I'm not going to change the configuration. Just slide this one in. I already heard the answer, okay, because I know everybody, since I took it out, they already stuff. So I know they are all entrepreneurs, they all been through this one. So then what happens? Natural answer would be, there's no way you put the 3rd one in, somehow, even in the middle, somehow you can make it transparent again. There's no way. Use a particle concept. But if I do this one, 45 degrees angle, wow, suddenly see through it. I'm not going to labor myself to explain why that's 100% of wave phenomenon. Only wave have that phenomenon. So what am I? The point here is light is a wave now. What a wave do? So let me see. Oh, okay. So if I can find this one. So you see, I try to explain audience see the light. if the light really have occupied with the medium so everybody can see, right? Okay, and this is transparency. I already showed this one. And then I want to see, here I want to see what, if light is a wave, what it demands. Okay, if light is a wave, okay, wave require a medium. Wave is a vibration. Okay, you can just say, hey, wave is a vibration, but vibration just propagates. So that means vibrating. You have to have a particle to vibrate, right? So that's the medium of particles vibrating. So we have to have a medium. A medium have a real matter particle. In order to vibrate, you have to have a mass, right? Without a mass, you vibrate off. You probably fly away if it's massless, right? So you have to coming back. So you have the inertia interact with the elastic recovery force. And wave are vibration of a medium. So you're assuming that's. I have to click twice. And vibration requires elasticity. So that's why we said the ether somehow have an elastic property. Even elastic property can propagate wave from a local point all the way through the field. Okay, so where comes the elasticity? Elasticity arises from magnetism. I have 3 magnets. 2 on both sides, 1 in the middle. You know what happens? Elasticity. Oh, elastic material. Where comes the elasticity? Because every single particles are magnetic particles. And the magnetic particle arise for elasticity. So that's why so wave can propagate because if it's elastic medium, okay, and this medium of light is magnetic. The medium is a magnetic medium. So current standard sentences is called electromagnetic, right? We know light. If we just use current definition, light is an electromagnetic wave. So that means the wave itself cannot be neutral wave, right? So we know what the property of ether, right? Ether has to be electromagnetic. Yeah, so, but since I try to get the electrical part out of my language, so I put everything's magnetic. I will explain why you have to put okay, so then it's called a magnetic medium. Is basically is a magnetic particle formed from the fluids. Okay, so the definition, the light is oscillation and the propagation of a magnetic wave. What is called a magnetic wave? The mediums are made by magnetic particles. Every single particles are magnetic particles. Let me tell you, or composite of magnetic particles. So that's why. So there's a propagation of magnetic means wave means magnetic particles oscillating or vibrating. So that's called a magnetic wave. And it has to through it's called a medium of ions, through a medium, magnetic medium. This magnetic medium made by smaller particles, okay, called the Uon particle. I hope. Okay, once you accept, we need to have ether, have a medium, we can explain this called a double-slit experiment easily. This is called a central mystery. So double-slit experiment and the photoelectrical effect called the central mystery of the experiment. To justify, we have to have called a wave-particle duality to justify quantum mechanics. So let me tell you, we can easily use a regular medium, use ether to explain. So the first experiment is use light as a source. Okay, let's say use light as a source. Since we already defined that light is a wave and this is a magnetic wave, right? So light go through two slits. This vibration wave will be called interference each other, create this interference pattern. So this interference pattern of course, to eventually propagate, go through the slit. So you see this called what is the light band this pattern. So for light, I'm not gonna say anything more. The true questioning is when your observer turn on. Say, hey, you turn on the observer, even for light, the interference pattern goes away. So if you look at an observer, I put this little eyes. I cannot make anything better than that one. So little camera observer. You know how do you observe some things? You turn on light, the shining and high frequency, high energy light, shining to try to spot any shadows come through the wedge slit, right? You know what happens? The original interference pattern is very weak, have the identical source, the light, and have the same phase, and almost the same amplitude, the same source, so that influence. But once now you have a third light come in, the third light generated wave destroy the interference pattern. So that's why you say, why you observed suddenly this interference pattern goes away. So that's where you say, now called the observer effect, right? So when the interference pattern goes away, the light concentrated in the center. At the two slit, only the pattern is only two slit point. You do not see this have a bright part and interact black, those kind of pattern. You no longer see that one. Okay. So the most difficult part about this, so far you listen to seems like a very natural, right? Very natural. So why we make this? We make a big deal about it. This is called the double-slit, because they said, hey, let's try electrons. We know electrons are particle, right? And we know electrons particle is a negative charge particle. That's what the standard model thought. You know what happens? When you're shooting particle one at a time, you for sure they are not interact. End up you have still this interact called interference pattern. So that's why we say that quantum mechanics of the particle can simultaneously go through both slits and interact with each other, interference each other. And then come kind of superposition, so can add multiple locations and simultaneously appear or something. So all the quantum awareness is from this because of this experience. Yes, let me explain why you're shooting individual electron. In this case, we know what we're shooting is not the electron. What we're shooting is a magnetic particle. It just have a magnetic field with it. And when your magnetic particle goes through a magnetic medium, so that's called the Uon medium, because we bring the ether back, right? So we have a real called the field. So now ether is the electromagnetic medium, and the particle of electron is a magnet. Magnet traveling in magnetic, what happens? Generate a self-generating the wave. Just like when you're swimming, you are not yourself go forward. The water are surrounding you, self-moving, create a self-generated called a wave. And when you go through the slits, and these waves interact each other, so that's called constructive interference. So that's why electron. Now they say, hey, if we shine lights to detect which part of which slit the electron goes through them, what happens? That third light, when you turn lights on, observe the light destroyed the original self-generated waves. Why it is self-generated? Electrons are magnets, right? In this case, in this theory, and space field with magnetic fields, right? When your magnet is traveling through magnetic fields, don't you think the wave would generate self-generate wave? Just as simple. Okay. This puzzled almost 100 years. Okay. Okay, now the second one, the mystery of the photoelectric effect. I provide this one, try to give enough evidence to refute some people say, hey, he just theory, never do experiment. I know some of the video they're talking about, they complain, I never get a peer reviewed and never do experiment. You know, one thing I have to appreciate my employer, working in NASA, we are not even allowed to, at one point, not allowed to use AI because AI only give you what is 70%, 80%, or say 9% good results. In NASA, we have an astronaut life at stake. Every single properties, every single statement that we make, we have to have our own experiment, own analysis to justify. We try to get 99.98% accuracy. So AI does not give us this one. I hope I clear up that one. Now we do allow to use AI, but not use AI, write a report, provide data. Okay, I was being distracted. So now I said photoelectric effect. So there's three theories. I'm talking about why Albert Einstein won the Nobel Prize. Against the what? Before he said, we have a classical theory, say, hey, light is a wave. Use a classical electrodynamics concept. Actually, wave concept is I'm not new to propose this. So this has been long posed over 200 years, I believe. However, being overridden by the quantum mechanics concept called particle wave. So in the classic say they said, hey, light is a wave. However, electricity, that's the problem. We always believe electricity is a flow of particle. In order to flow of electron, you have to knock the electron out, called the energy wave, outside of their original quantum state. I would say atomic state, stable state. You knock it out so that they can free fly. So that's how they justify this electricity. So they said, hey, but the problem is, is the light propagation. So classical say, wave is correct. And then assuming electricity is a flow or particle, that's wrong. But that's okay. The third one say, it is believed intensity. If I have a multiple lights, one light does not cause any electricity. If I have a multiple increases intensity, we should see the electrical current. Turned out that's not the case, and that made Albert Einstein to win Nobel Prize. How? He assuming light is a photon particle. Now you know. I believe that's a wrong concept. Okay. But anyway, so light is a particle, so that's a wrong concept. However, electricity is a flow of electron. It's also a wrong concept. But classical explanation is the same. The third one called the ejection of the depends on frequency. So say in order to create electric current, you have to have frequency means a different color. You have to change the different color, different intensity, not the intensity, different frequency to cause the photon, which is right. Then at that time, everything considered correct, so he won Nobel Prize in 1921. Okay, what's the Uon explanation? Uon explanation, I use green. I'm biased. I use green means correct. So, but whether right or wrong is all in your understanding. So light is a wave, and electricity have nothing to do with the flow. There's no flow at all, just oscillation, vibration. So once the incoming light wave resonant with the frequency of the particles on the conducting material, on solar panel, let's say, what happens? The incoming wave vibration that will create a resonance with the particles on the surface of a solar panel, create oscillation. And oscillation, that's a definition of electricity. In electricity, I refute this kind of concept, say, hey, we have a solid particle traveling from one end to another end whatsoever. No. So the third so what is the fundamental particle? So the fundamental particle, this is the particle. Once I find out the fundamental particle is a magnetic particle, that's where I realize what gravity really is. Okay, so they do have a implication. So you look at the standard model. I believe previous what the presenter mentioned about so called the zoo particle zoo. In all the particle zoo, we have how many dozens of elementary particles, so just like in the picture, and we still cannot solve the problem. So what happens? So that people develop called supersymmetry. What does supersymmetry do? They double the number of elements, called the imaginary part, doubles that one. So already there's dozens, and now you doubles them. And then we still cannot solve because that particle, supersymmetry particle, not even one particle can be experimentally demonstrated to exist. And then there's a string theory. String theory, at this moment, the top physicists still consider the best theory and can reconcile relativity quantum mechanics. String theory even more ridiculous. Okay, string theory, how many elementary particles in string theory? Infinite number. String theory means the fundamental form of matter is a string of energy. They never define what is energy. Okay, it's a string of energy. So string can vibrate, and different vibration node called one mode is called one particles and particle. However, how many vibration mode? Infinite number. Even any finite stream have an infinite number of vibration frequency and what they call the eigenvector and eigenvector. So that means string theory have an infinite number of elementary particle. There's no real particles. Everything particle is a waveform. The node called standing wave function. I do not believe so. The fundamental particle, what I come down say, if electric charge cannot exist, the electric charge is just a magnetic pole, and amount charge particle cannot exist, the fundamental only one thing is a magnetic particle. Now my statement is a magnetic particle is not only, it's itself is fundamental, and it is the only fundamental particle. That's a big claim, right? I try to say, why does a magnetic particle have such unique property? None of other standard model have. Is it can infinitely divide. Quantum mechanics, every single particle has a fixed size, certain size. If you deliver that size, is completely the model brought down, right? But only magnetic particle can be infinitely divisible. So that's why we already know the light. So the light vibration, is a small. It can be infinitely small. Frequency can be even high. The particle made of the medium of the vibration has a required medium, right? The particle made of the light of transmitting medium has to be orders of magnitude smaller, right? Forming this oceans of this kind of liquid. So that means it still maintain physical property. When you break a magnet, you still get smaller magnets. You cannot do this one with any single charged particle. They said that you cannot break electron cannot be divided. If you divide the proton, so you violate the quantum principle. So those are made up principle, right? So something, you have to have a certain size. You cannot be subdivided. Magnetic particle is the only particle exists. You can infinitely divide, still maintain bipolar property. Okay, so now I try to justify. Right now, I'm all trying to give you evidence, try to say, so why the universe actually made only one single particle called the fundamental particle, Uon, which is a magnetic particle. And I try to say, why other type of particle cannot exist? So I listed all three types, three scenarios. So assuming it's a positive particle, if you divide a positive particle, can you make a particle recombine themselves? If you can do, you violate the Coulomb's law, like charge repel, right? You cannot do. Same thing for the negative electron. You cannot exist. If you divide it, now entire theory is blown up, right? So now, what about the neutral particle? the neutral particle, I said that the problem with the neutral particle, assuming there's a neutral particle, does not have a magnetic charge, what happens? It cannot combine. We know particle and the particle combined force cannot be gravity. Gravity too small, right, too weak. So it has to be electromagnetic, that's based on current theory. So that's why in either case, monocharged particle or zero charge particle cannot exist. So leave only one type of particle. That's Uon magnetic particle. So in this case, I try to answer lots of questions come out right away. Say, hey, if you say that everything is a magnetic particle, so I have two magnets. Everything is a magnetic particle. How can we have a neutral field, right? You have a neutral particle. So that was a neutral. So I'm sure, say, if I have a two magnetic particle, so how can I make a neutral particle? Positive and negative opposite. You will have canceled each other. So that's why you have apparently neutral particle error. The reason neutral particle is the most stable state. If another way combine, I call it in series. In series, you have a long magnets. Long magnets have a stronger magnetic field. When you have a magnetic field, you will be you attract something, interact with them. Until one day, what happens? Buckle. What happens to buckle? Become neutral. Okay. So that's why most stable configuration is neutral. I try to explain, so that's why neutron and the proton can attract to each other at the center of the nucleus, right? Neutron itself is made by a pair of magnetic particles, just opposite. Far away from them is neutral field. But if close enough, local magnetic effect will take effect. So that's why you can combine them. Okay. I just want to make sure how I connected with Terrence is in my interaction with all my peers, famous or audience, the physics professors, PhD students, none of them realize the fundamental problems with physics is at electron level. None of them. But when I was called to fact check Terrence, the interview on the show. So the first question, I tested him. I asked, I said, well, what do you think about an electron? Is that possible electron can be a single charge? He said, no, it has to have a both positive and negative. You know what? I've been convinced. I've been totally convinced. Oh my goodness, you can be the best actor, and then you can also be sex cell in another field, right? Okay, so I hope I'm going to go very fast. I try to, I just go through the mysteries of what is a dark matter, dark energy. Okay, so I try to show you, am I only talk, or talk the talk, or walk the talk? I try to, my habit is every statement I made, I have to provide evidence. I'm appreciated my training at NASA, okay? So if you look at this, I found this, the fine print, so this materials, this is used the most state-of-the-art technology to detect, so what is the structure of molecules, okay? And then I said, well, if I believe I'm right, am I able to create this chemical component? If you look at it, this is the one I use a magnet, create myself. It's five magnets each circle. I made them, not made on the tip of the on the center. It's offset. So there's two different configurations. If you have five magnets form two circles, you can either balance on top tip, but that's an unstable structure. That means one type of material. And then I rotate it, and suddenly, so the one of them right in the middle. So that structure is very strong. So you cannot rotate anymore. So that's the same. You have the same atomic number, but will give you a different property. So that will becomes a different element. Okay, so I made this one, and then I said, well, since this one, let me tell you how did I decide to use 5 of them. I started with 6, like a hexagon. That's the most popular shape, right? I believe this professor, mentioned that. The most like a water structure, right? That's Jared mentioned about it. I can make it work. If I make 6 ring, that works. If you match them, you cannot make it work. So I have to say, hey, what's wrong? So I go back to count it. There's a 5. So I said, okay, I'm going to make a 5. Works. And then 2 on the top. Center is a vacuum. So this is the structure. So let me tell you, the nature will tell you magnets how to balance themselves. Scientifically, if you use a mathematical equation to calculate this configuration, probably take a century, let me tell you. Okay, so now, since I made that one, so okay, so what if I group them? Did you see this one? Exactly match. Okay, so basically I try to prove myself I'm not delusional with chemistry, okay? Thanks for the discipline. We need to call the experiment provide evidence of every statement, okay? And then the whole purpose here, one is say we have a smallest particle is a magnetic particle and no other particle can exist in the world, right? And the second thing is the magnetic particle has to interact with them, because that means propagate light has to have this field. The Uon field also made by magnets, smaller magnets, because the magnetic particle can infinitely divisible. This is try to show one particle can unify all the charge, mass, and have a physical volume. And then for force, I'm gonna show you next the mystery of gravity. So now let me tell you how do I discovered gravity does not even exist. After I discovered the smallest particle can only be charged, called a magnetic particle, both charged. David know the story. After I discovered this one, I found out because Isaac Newton is my childhood hero. I deeply believe, matter attracts. I said, now all the matters are magnetic particle, charged particle. We do not have a neutral particle, so how could gravity? Where comes gravity? I spent 4 hours. I could not solve it. Overnight, I could not solve it. So during the day, I work myself. And I said, okay, I'm started cooking, After cooking, a pressure cooker or something, make some beef stew, something. During the middle of the 4 hours, I suddenly realized magnetic particle. I was thinking about the solar system, the sun and the earth. Right, so if Earth and the Sun, assuming they both are neutral particle, and how can it square? Suddenly I said, it can rotate. Did you see 2 magnets interact can rotate? I said, the reason we said the Sun and the Earth are magnetic attracted. I call that what is called the gravitational attracted. Because what? If it's the opposite pole, it will keep attract. If it's a like pole, it will rotate. And when they locked, they're always opposite, right? When they locked in place, that's the stable structure we have to the solar system. I have an example to show, and then I would say, okay. So I would say, hey, Newton's gravity, I write here, it's a little bit too far from me, okay? You can see this called the inverse square law, right? So that's what Newton's proportional to mass. Let me tell you, mass is a scalar. How can you force proportional to a scalar? Force is a vector, right? So how can it? Okay, so that's one thing. Is a scalar. Scalar means no direction. And what's the problem with gravity? There's a one, I'm not sure this is called the millennium problem, called the three-body problem. I have a pictures here. If you see called the three-body problem, that was the year actually after Newton developed this called universal gravitational law, and he notified this law cannot even dealing with any more than three bodies. Any multiple bodies, three bodies, because they can randomly rotate, right? As long keep the distance, direction can and change, cannot solve this one. But if you consider this is a magnetic attraction, so that's where I put here. If you consider this is magnetic attraction, so that's why sun's direction. If Earth's north point up, sun's must be south on sun's axis. That's how they locked up. Remember, all the planets orbit the sun in the same plane, right? Because that's the neutral plane. You go up, becomes south, go down, becomes the north. I'm ready to say sun's gravitation is opposite to Earth's one. It's all magnetically locked. Okay. The reason I want to mention this one is the three-bodied problem has been solved. Terrence has in his presentation probably he mentioned because he tried to solve some real-world problem, which for me too difficult. Okay, I don't want to do that detailed hands-on. So he might be explaining that well. Okay. So I want to make sure I put an empirical model I call the Uon gravitation model. If you look at the shape, basically identical. One difference is in the denominator. One is r squared. That's Newton's law, and I put a 1 plus I squared. I try to get rid of the singularity. In Newton's law, distance r equals 0, you have an infinity, right? So you create the infinite mass, something, gravitational force. Infinite gravitational force requires infinite mass. The mass is still fixed that shape, size, but just because the distance and suddenly, so it does not make sense. So I put a 1 there. So when r equals 0, this one does not give you singularity. And another difference is if you look at, I use UM1, UM2, which is magnetic force. So so basically I would say gravity is a residual magnetism of a system. Okay. So that's why I use a different symbol. This is empirical. I just try to for people easy to use. If you want to theoretically derive this one, it will much complex because it involves the vector analysis. I'm not going to show that work. Okay, so in this video, I want to show one thing, try to further convince people solar system acting on magnetic force is not gravity. One thing is direction. We know everything in direction locked, it has to be magnetic force locked, right? And then number two, in order for Earth not to impact with the sun, then the solar system have to rotate. So now the question is, what force make things rotate? So I made a little video. Right? Put a battery on top of the magnets, and it rotates. Thank you. Thank you for your support. This is a NASA outreach video. So it's a long video, 7 minutes. I have to cut it for 9 seconds. Just try to save time for my brother. Okay. I'm still working on gravity. I try to nail down this one, beat the horse to death, okay? If you still believe, if you still have not convinced by me, let's think about it another way. Newton said attraction force determines with the mass, the bigger mass, so you have a bigger force, right? Based on that logic, the planet should, when you far away, you should have a higher mass in order to generate a higher force, right? You look at the solar system. all the way you can go back to the Pluto. Pluto's only 0.2% of Earth's mass. It's a way smaller, size smaller than Moon. And 40 times distance from Pluto to the Sun than Earth to the Sun. Earth to Sun only 1 AU, astronomical unit. That far away, that small size, still do the same, exactly the same thing, orbiting the Sun. Does that make you think? Do we need a proportion has to mass in order to generate enough mass force to orbit the Sun? No, we don't need it. Okay. If I get through the gravity, I'm very happy. I can stop anywhere. So what is this? Oh, okay. The force. One thing is Isaac Newton himself criticized, said that one body may act upon another one across empty space without mediation is absurd to me, to Newton himself. He think about how could a force act over vacuum space, each other. And the Uon theory says, space is not a vacuum. We are all connected through Uon field, or somebody prefer ether field. We are connected through the same field. Another one about the gravity different than any other fundamental force. Gravity is attraction only. Every other fundamental force are both attraction or repulsion. So that means another fallacy, right, with gravity. And the third one, magnetic force. Okay, this is the one I need to do an experiment here. This is the one thing, we have a lot of smart people. Okay, I know many people started to study physics. They believe they are the top 1% student in high school or whatever. However, after they study physics, they dumb it down. They talk about nonsense. Okay, that's somehow being trained away differently. So because of the argument is to say, hey, if you say gravity are residual effect of magnets, why gravity is so weak and also magnetic force is so strong? Right? And the bigger body and have a smaller force. I try to demonstrate this case. These are magnets. So these are bar magnets, okay, square magnets. Let's see what happens if I use this one to, I can attract that one. I cannot attract that one. I can get two. This is the magnetic force, nothing serious, right? Until I fold. When you have a long magnets interact, buckled becomes what? Somebody's trying to answer. If I let you answer, probably you already know the answer. So now, how many balls I can pick it up? All of them. All of them. That's exactly Pat David said. The show host. Many people don't say that one. So if I made the center of gravity is lower, right? More concentrated. I'm gonna let this gentleman to demonstrate. Can you stand up? And I'm holding this one. Tell me how many balls you can pick it up. Yeah.
Cancel.
None. Zero.
Interesting.
Cancel each other. That's why make gravity so weak.
Thank you.
I convinced one. I hope you're gonna spread the word. So that's why you lump more mass does not necessarily increase your force. Depends on magnetic polarity and alignment. Okay, so with that one, I think I believe we should be able to explain what is dark matter, dark energy, and all the mysteries. If we have time to explain, I try to unify a fundamental force. Okay,
So I try to go faster. So gravity, we said something, so we do not repair. Gravity is a residual magnetic force, right? Summation, Terrence Howard like this summation of a magnetism of a system. He liked the word summation. And some people like called residual of a system. Residual cancellation and leftover called gravity. So gravity is a magnetic force. We unify that one. The second one is the electrical force. We demonstrate so-called electric charge is a magnetic polarity. It's a magnetic pole. Okay, it's not, so that's why electrical charge is part of magnetic, so we can unify it to the magnetic force. And the magnetic force, so we take that apart. And the other one called the electromagnetic force. Electromagnetic force. I want to show the problem here. Let me see. Okay, this is called what is the this is called Maxwell equation. This is considered the foundation of electrodynamics. All the electrical engineering has to learn this one, and I found a flaw in it. And I got evidence. So the first flaw is what? So number one, I have to say that is a monumental achievement. Because before Maxwell, we consider electrical, magnetic separate. Not only separate, they're not related. So Maxwell find out whenever you have an electrical field and some are perpendicular, have a magnetic field go with it. So he somehow unified this one. So in the law of the number third of Faraday law and the Amber's law, those are talking about electric field and magnetic field are mutually perpendicular. So that's how you look at the wave, right? So that's what Maxwell do. But the problem is not here. The problem is in the first one, it's Gauss's law of electricity. The Gauss's law is assuming electricity is among the charged particle. So that's why when you do closed surface integral, you have a non-zero value. So that's wrong. Yeah, that's big. And I do not have this until this morning. I believe I discussed with Ken, the smart doctor. He have several books published. Ken told me, his a friend. So they implement Maxwell equation as it is and blow up their problems. And I will tell you one thing. Maybe not good idea in supporting shuttle. My fellow engineer, he do programming. He told me one thing: in order to make a flight, so electro control something, he worked with this one. He said we have to rely on our own data. We cannot directly plug it in, program this equation to calculate the number all over the place. It's not even diverse. It's not even converged. Okay, I probably talked too much about this one. Okay, so next one. What is Uon talking about? Since it's the only particle and all charges are magnetic polarity, only particle, magnetic particle, how do we get this curve? So when you have a moving magnets created, it was called the velocity vector. So when the displacement vector, now you have a moving magnetic field. That's a velocity vector is exactly called a derivative, exactly 90 degree to each other. So this is called the electric field is actually moving, vibrating magnets. Oh my goodness! Thank you. I have audience give me feedback, real-time feedback. Thank you. So okay. So that's all I try to say. Okay. So now I try to unify. Say we unified gravity, magnetic force. We unified electromagnetism, or electromagnetic force as a magnetic force, right? Just magnetism. One is moving, one is static, and then strong force. Okay. So I'm not gonna demonstrate that one. I just say since in Uon theory, every single particle are either a composite particle of a magnetic particle. So that means you use the magnetic particle as a composite, you still have a magnets. So in this case, a neutron is also made by magnets in parallel, right? Proton is charged, made by magnets in series. So that's why neutron and the proton can attract each other. They're all magnets. Eventually, they will find balance. So if a neutron and the proton can attract to each other, do we need another force to force them together? So strong force we don't need it. Do not exist. We do not need it. And the same thing happens to the weak nuclear force. There's another video I can play. Okay, so Uon theory is basically so-called proton neutron. Just magnets attract to each other. Nothing else. So this is a proton neutron attract each other. I already explained the electron with the proton neutron. They're all made by magnets. Of course, they attract each other. There's no theory. And elastic force made by magnetic force. I demonstrated using this little toy. Use this little toy. Yeah. All elasticity made by magnetic coupling. Okay. Okay, sure. I'm done. I'm almost done. So so we are almost approaching to the end. So if anything I messed up, and please, and so somehow we will get the slides to somebody. So I try to say all the chemical bonds are magnetic bonds. We do no longer have an orbital electron as a covalence bonds. Everything's magnets. Of course, magnets were bound. And there's one biological force. I just want to share one secret. If you are a biologist, we know one mystery is what is a biological code, right? We said the information we can never find. Biological code is the binary magnetic dipole system. Magnetic pole dipole, the connection, the structure, that's the code for biology code. So I believe I'm at the end. The nuclear force, I'm not explaining. Nuclear force, quantum mechanics already explained. It's founded on wrong foundation. It should not be correct. And the relativity, since gravity is a magnetic effect, we do not need a space-time curvature, right? Black hole. You live from Florida, we do not need a black hole because there's electromagnetic attraction that's 10 to the 36 times higher than gravity attraction. So we have plenty of force. Everything we do not need a black hole singularity. And this is called a conventional view of dark matter. Dark matter, we do not need it because everything, attraction, magnetic force is 10 to the 36 zero, 110 times 36 zeros. So way over whatever you have, you need a dark matter. And dark energy is just a magnetic repulsion. So I want to show you with this one. Did you see filament evenly spread over? Why? Because it comes through the same electrodes. The same electrodes means the same polarity. So that means you create a like pole repel, just like so these are just regular stainless steel, are not magnets. If I put here, did you see? Natural, that's exactly what is called dark energy, pushing things away. It's just magnetic repulsion. I think it should be. I hope this is the last page. Okay, if it's not, this is some more evidence to say why universe is not expanding. I'm not going to explain anything more, and this explains why antimatter does not need it. Yeah. So since too simple for you guys, so I'm not. Okay, this is the last page. So everything in the universe, we only need one particle. Uon particle, universal particle, one force, magnetic force, and one field, magnetic field, and one principle. That's called the like charge repel, opposite charge attract, and one universe. We do not need a high dimension. We just need a regular classical absolute space and time. We do not need high dimension. We do not need relative mass, relative space and time. So everything should be unified through one universal fundamental magnetic particle. I just want to add one thing. I listened to so many people talking about Nikola Tesla's quote, all the secrets. In order to understand the secret of the universe, what you need to do in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I give a little bit of change. The secret of the universe lies in magnetism. That's the force. It's not just energy. That's the fundamental driving force. And vibration, that's how you have to propagate. And the frequency tell you how to receive information, resonance. So the secret of the universe lies in magnetism, vibration, and frequency. Thank you very much.